Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Health Wire show. My name is Jason Berry. I'm the editor of Digital Health Wire and the host of the show. Today, I'm joined by Derek Lo, who is the CEO of Medallion. Derek, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, so exciting times over at Medallion. Any big news drop this week?
Yeah, we just announced that we raised an additional 43 million of venture capital financing. Round was led by Accrue Capital, with participation from a bunch of our existing insiders like Sequoia, Spark Capital, Google Ventures, and others.
Very cool. Maybe for anyone who's unfamiliar, and we'll dive into what you plan on doing with the funding and kind of the next chapter, but could you frame up Medallion's core platform and what you do for your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So we automate various parts of managing a provider network. So provider network operations includes a bunch of different workflows from data management to first creating a source of truth for all of your provider data, as well as different ancillary data like your facilities and different group entities. And then we have essentially invested a lot of engineering and now AI into being able to automate these various back office workflows from payer enrollment to cross-state licensing to NCQA credentialing. These are all different forms of credentialing, but they're actually quite different workflows, and they're all essentially part of the overall provider network operations stack, essentially, of things you have to do to properly manage your provider network.
And you guys have put out some really interesting white papers before. It always blows my mind, kind of the cost and the time it takes to get a new provider up and running. Can you kind of walk us through what like some of the historical challenges in this space have been and how that's hurting provider orgs?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say there's a few things. And one is just the level of complexity with some of these workflows is quite high because of the different permutations that exist. So a good example is cross-state licensing, where you've got to, if you're a telehealth business, license your providers in a bunch of different states. You've got hundreds of different state boards, from medical to nursing to PA to behavioral health, to dental. And all of these boards have their own portal, their own set of things that they ask for, and it's a really cumbersome, complex process. You have to get fingerprinted, and so yeah, I mean it's really challenging to be able to navigate all of that when really your core focus is not anything to do with these things. It's
Mhm.
providing patient care. Like that's ultimately the goal of any healthcare organization, right? And so yeah, that's what we're trying to help solve is a lot of these workflows that are, yeah, they're really complicated. They rely on a ton of different data, and they have to go right to be able to actually onboard your clinicians and be able to see patients.
Cool. What is the main pushback you might receive when you go in and you lay out, hey, we'll take over these cumbersome processes for you. We'll automate away a lot of that friction. That seems kind of like a no-brainer. What is some of the pushback you get, or why might some people be hesitant to like dive in?
Yeah, I mean, one piece is control. I think some organizations are concerned, and rightly so, over having control of these workflows because they're so critical, and making sure that if Medallion is going to take them over, that things are going to go well. So that's definitely one. I'd say another one is skepticism that these things can actually be automated, and that we'll actually be able to improve outcomes and improve results. Um, those are probably the top couple.
Mhm. As far as the skepticism that these things can actually be automated, automation and AI agents have been one of the shining themes of the year so far. Are people getting more on board with the fact that, like, yes, Medallion can make these calls, line these things up, actually automate this away? Like, the technology is there now to the point where this is totally possible.
I think so, for sure. I mean, obviously, not everything can be automated, um, and there's elements of these workflows that are really difficult to automate. And I don't think that AI is um, is good enough yet at being able to automate everything. Certainly, I think LLMs are good at a very specific type of automation right now, which is really anything to do with language. So companies like Abridge, have gotten really successful because LLMs are really, really good at doing that type of work, scribing and summarization. Like that's like the perfect use case for LLMs right now. Whereas using an LLM to yeah, be able to say respond to any arbitrary support question. It's not fully there yet. I think that's a use case where there's been a lot of hype and a lot of companies that are being created around that. And I think it's getting there for sure. And I think it is working quite well on a lot of use cases, but it's definitely not working perfectly across
Mhm.
everything. And in an industry where you need to be really, really correct essentially, and just the bar for accuracy is really high. But obviously, with all the dollars being invested and how much funding is going into this, how much brain power is going into improving LLMs. I mean, I definitely wouldn't bet against these things getting to a place where they're a lot more useful.
Well, cool. As far as the funding goes, what are you excited about with this next chapter for Medallion? One of the big things in the press release was the launch of this new CredAlliance. Could you walk us through CredAlliance and maybe some of the other things you're planning on putting the funding toward and spinning up for this next little phase here?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're really excited about CredAlliance. So essentially, the crux of it is that payers are credentialing a lot of the same providers, right? Because the average provider is a network with about 20 different health plans. Therefore, all those health plans are actually running the same process to credential these providers. And so we've essentially built a clearinghouse where we can credential them once and then reuse that result across a bunch of different health plans. And so, yeah, we're seeing really good traction in the market, interest from payers. Our payer revenues over doubled in the first half of this year. So, yeah, it's a model that we're really excited about. We think it's the way that credentialing should work in the industry. And yeah, we're looking forward to bringing it to more health plans and eventually, hopefully, providers as well.
Very cool. What obstacles do you kind of need to overcome to make CredAlliance a success? Like, what are the levers you need to pull, or what do you really need to dial in to make sure that it all comes together?
Yeah, I mean, models like this really don't work unless you truly reach scale. So I'd say we're really investing heavily into the go-to-market motion and into being able to, yeah, onboard more health plans as fast as possible. We've continued to double down on automation for credentialing to, yeah, make sure that the product is super strong. So yeah, those are the two main things because obviously there are real network effects where the more health plans that are on the platform and on this model, the better that it gets because there's more cost savings.
Right. Is that something that health plans are reluctant to kind of come on board with?
Yeah, I mean, there's a range, right? Some health plans we've already signed up, several large significant plans and a bunch of smaller ones as well. There's plans that are going to be just more forward thinking and are going to lead the pack, and then there's going to be a bunch of plans that are more conservative and risk averse and want to see it actually working first. And that's natural, like that's the case in any industry. And so yeah, we're excited to be working with some of the early adopters of this solution, and yeah, we think that that will over time snowball and get some of the folks that are a little bit more hesitant and conservative to yeah to come over.
How do you expect the credentialing space to kind and provider network operations a little bit zoomed out? How do you think that space is going to evolve over the next few years as these LLMs get more powerful, as you roll out things like CredAlliance? How do you see this space shifting?
I mean, in general, I think the bar is going to increase for just what good looks like and for efficiency. In a lot of other industries, I think the some of the ways that healthcare works today just wouldn't be tolerated in other yeah industries. And so I think increasingly we're going to see step function improvements in yeah just like quality of life for clinicians and ultimately hopefully for patients as well.
Mhm.
More time spent, more doctors available, more doctors that take your insurance. Like these are things that everyday consumers experience, and the hope is that by really driving efficiency in the back office, that a collection of companies, Medallion being one of them, hopefully over the next 5, 10 years really changes that experience.
Nice. Well, looking forward to following along there. Is there anything that people maybe underweight about the work that you're doing at Medallion or get wrong about the business?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things that's probably the biggest maybe misnomer is people think about Medallion as a quote unquote credentialing company, which makes sense because obviously if you're not in the weeds and not in the day to day, that's not like necessarily a wrong interpretation of like of what we do. But if you're more familiar with the industry and what we're actually solving for, you'd realize that credentialing is a really overloaded term, and it means a bunch of different things. Like there's a bunch of different workloads that are very distinct and different from each other and solve very different problems and use cases. Um, from more traditional workflow automation to more like compliance,
Mm,
to like being a database and CRM for provider information. So yeah, we are covering a broad spectrum of different use cases and problems. And I think people think about us as solving just one thing, which is credentialing, but in reality, that really is actually a bunch of different problems.
what advice would you give to organizations that are struggling with these problems across that entire spectrum that you just mentioned? Beside, it can be by Medallion, of course. Everyone go and check
Yeah,
it out.
I mean that that would certainly be up there on the list of recommendations. But yeah, I mean, I think it's essentially just looking at the solutions in the market. We'd love to be in the running and consideration, obviously. Um, and yeah, figuring out what exactly the problem is and then going out to market and figuring out who's got the best solution to be able to solve it. Because again, credentialing, there's a bunch of different um, aspects of the problem and different things that could be contributing to your issue, right? So it could be that actually Medallion is not the right solution, and your issue is actually more something downstream in RCM or more upstream in how you're recruiting or training providers. So if it has anything to do with things that we do, obviously, yeah, we would love to get in touch with those folks.
When you look across the healthcare industry as a whole, are there any other areas that you're excited to see the upcoming wave of innovation that we're like just knocking on the front door of?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole slew of different companies that I think are super fascinating. I mean, there's these like AI doctor companies that are, coming up.
Mhm.
Open evidence, right, has been getting a ton of traction. Like that seems super interesting. I think there's going to be an immense amount of innovation, and yeah, I think, yeah, just really excited to see what happens there. And there's clearly a ton of new use cases that LMs will be really, really good at solving that people haven't even thought to use them for or just in the nascent stages. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be super exciting to see how things evolve for the next 5, 10 years. And I mean, I think everybody is in agreement that this is the next big technology wave, just like the internet and mobile and
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be so many exciting things that we haven't even dreamed up yet that will really positively impact US healthcare and healthcare broadly globally and obviously lots of industries.
Cool. It's not the easiest thing to look up the exponential curve and kind of predict where we're going, but what's kind of your intuition about, will the industry be entirely, we won't even recognize healthcare as it is today in 5 years or 10 years, or do you think it might be more of a gradual slow burn and like we'll start taking for granted the little quality of life improvements one by one and
Yeah,
look
yeah,
mainly if you walked into a doctor's office in a
yeah.
decade from now, it'll be kind of hard to tell. The doctor will just have a little bit more of a smile on his face. The patient will be a little more tuned in.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more the latter, to be honest, in healthcare at least. I think that there's going to be behind the scenes some really major changes. And maybe in 10 years, I mean 10 years is a long time. So I mean maybe in 10 years we will have a doctor in your pocket type of thing that truly is like as good as a primary care physician. I could see that. Now whether or not we think that that is truly actually like life changing versus what technology we have today, I don't know actually. I mean this telehealth, you can phone a doctor right now and have essentially a doctor in your pocket now. So um, yeah, now obviously I think having an AI doctor that's as good as a a doctor over telehealth, and that's like, you can get a response instantly. That is an improvement for sure, and I think would be pretty magic. But yeah, quality of life, I think with modern technology, in America is pretty good right now. So,
Mm,
but yeah, I'm sure in 10 years there's going to be a ton of stuff that we can't even imagine now that's going to get created that will be really impactful.
cool. What if we reel it back into a 2-year timeline and we're talking just about Medallion now? If you executed to a T over these next couple of years, what would that success kind of look like from where you're sitting?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be serving a lot more businesses, a lot more healthcare companies. CredAlliance certainly growing to be a substantial force in the industry, especially on the health insurance side, and yeah, more automation than um, in different workflows than we have today. So launching new products. Yeah, we're really excited about the next couple years. This new capital, right, should take us to profitability, um, and could inevitably end up being the last round that we actually ever raise. So yeah, we're really excited about the next set of growth and next couple of years.
Well, awesome. Derek, thank you for coming on the show. Letting me pick your brain a little bit here. Is there anything, any exciting virtual events or anything coming up that audience should be aware of?
Yeah, we are actually hosting a virtual event called Elevate. We do it every year. We've had some really exciting speakers in past history, like former president of Optum, co-founders of Oak Street Health, Carbon Health. So yeah, really excited about that. And that'll just be in a few weeks. So yeah, hope people tune in for that.
Awesome. Elevate is always one of the best virtual conferences that I go to every year. And we'll link to it in the show notes so people can find it easily. Derek, your MC abilities are also amazing at Elevate. You keep that thing running tight. Props to you for that.
Thank you. No, again, thanks so much for having us on this. This is really great, and yeah, I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This has been the Digital Health Wire Show, and we'll see you next time.